long it takes to make Twitch catch on that we're streaming. I'm in the right mood to stream, but I can't say that my brain is actually on. I've had a rough week in terms of not getting any sleep and screwing up myself. So I don't know how long I'll be able to keep up a stream, but we'll give it a shot until my voice starts to go out or I get so hungry I have to stop. What we're doing is the diving prototype. I worked on it all yesterday because I couldn't do anything else. So today, you get to see it a little bit more advanced than it was. We're going to try and make the underwater section look like underwater. But first, I better tell people what we're doing. Making underwater look like underwater. IndieDev. Sorry if my if you can hear my sniffing or anything. I'm trying not to, but we will see whether or not I can keep it to a minimum. Unlike Wednesday, I'm not in a terrible mood, and I got some sleep. But, you know, some weeks you're not as healthy as other weeks. So what we're going to do is I just installed a whole bunch of these packages that I got. This is the underwater stuff, and then I also got some soft shadows I was going to use in the previous product, but didn't get a chance to. And I think that these will allow us to create the underwater look that I want to create. If you're wondering how to get this version of the download page, an actual useful version of the download page, the answer is that you have to click on a tiny little link at the very, 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 very bottom of the screen after having closed down the thing that pops up to hide that link. It'll let you go back to the old asset store, which is the good one, for the next, I don't know, month or so until they finish closing it. The new asset store it doesn't really do any of this. It's not intended to actually be used. It's intended to make some designer on the team feel good about themselves, which is not very important to me. I don't mind if that designer jumps off a cliff and dies. So what we've got here is some really nice fog setup. We're going to try and put in some beautiful underwater fog, volumetric fog. And what we're doing is we're learning about Aura 2 live on camera. How exciting, right? So there are three kinds of Aura components: cameras, lights, and volumes. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do about the lights. We'll find out. We'll try and figure it. We'll try a bunch of different things here. So when we look around, we can see that there are a whole bunch of scene view stuff. This is why I bought Aura 2. It's got a lovely little interface here for actually creating all the fog you want to create, whereas Aura 1 was actually quite challenging, which is why I don't use it. But it has been a long time since I tried to do anything, so... yeah, okay, so I can probably just match up Aura lights and normal lights. Alright, so we got the basic rundown on how Aura works, but it's not the first thing we're going to be creating. First things first, I'm going to show you the game in action. Right now it's very dark in this, because I set the light color to be a very dark color. Let's go ahead and brighten it up just so we can see what's going on. So I'm making a diving game, you may. And I worked on it yesterday. Last time we were together, the character model was a bunch of cylinders. I've replaced it with a standard MakeHuman mesh. Just an ordinary, everyday MakeHuman mesh. It's no big deal. I put in some placeholder animations, which will have to be fixed and tweaked and stuff, but you can see that we're starting to get to something that feels like a real diving game. Now, the key to this diving game is the hand interaction and the camera. So as we move around, we will be able to look in different angles and stuff, and we can get different sorts of camera responses. So what I'm aiming for with the camera is, come on, I moved to the other screen for a second to check and see whether I had any stream chat, and boy, did that not work out. What I'm trying to get with the cameras and stuff is I want the far camera to feel like an overview, but when you look to the side or zoom in, I really want it to feel like you're looking close up at the character. Because I want to be able to transition from really, really close up, seeing the hands, seeing the interactions, seeing your buddy, to this kind of overview camera, I want that transition to be as fast and easy as possible. This is a bad diver. She's raking up a ton of silt here, but that's the nature of the game when we're first trying to figure out how to do the hands stuff. You can see that the hands stuff is not too shabby, but it's obviously a little bit aggressive and silly. It's just placeholder stuff to make sure that what we've got going is going. First step, we're going to go ahead and replace the shaders we're using. We're going to try and get a nice underwater shader going. We've got a couple of underwater shaders. I don't actually know what NGSS is. That's the soft shadows, okay. Here's the underwater shaders. And if we take a look, we got a couple of underwater elements. I don't actually know too much about this. Let me open up the docs here. The underwater manager prefab, drag it into your scene as a simple game object. Okay. So here's the underwater manager, which is presumably where I can get my caustics going. If I look at the game, I don't see any caustics yet, so I may have to be... Underwater manager prefab are not required. Yeah, that's fine. Underwater standard shader is based on Unity 5. Multiple lights, nice. Calculated per fragment. Desktop shader is the legacy one, so we won't use that one. Mobile fast, and terrain. We probably will end up using the terrains. Yeah, so there's a lot of different shaders here. Presumably we can set them up to feel good. So to use a terrain shaders, we're going to have to create a new material and assign the underwater terrain material to it. I'm a little surprised it didn't just pass me one. Let's go ahead and do that though. Material, underwater terrain. And then we can set that to be the correct shader, which is going to be the underwater terrain shader, like so. Open the terrain settings in the inspector. Boop. Oh, that's the game. Boop. Here's the terrain settings. We should be able to go over here and switch out the material to a custom material. We'll drop that in. Boom. Oh, it's really dark. Okay, so if we look over here in the water terrain, it's super dark right now, and I think that might just be because of the fog distance. Yeah, so that's actually not too bad. It's not so much better that I feel great about it, but we haven't added in the caustics and we don't have any volumetric fog yet. Let's continue to scroll down here, see what else it's got to say. Parameters, caustics. We actually do have the ability to choose a caustics texture. Did they send us any? Yeah, they did. Let's use this one. I don't see any sign that this material is actually any different. Oh, it's different. Look at that fog. Do I have fog turned on? Let's turn off fog. I don't think I want fog on as well. So we'll go over here into Window, General, Scene. Hello? Window, General, Scene. What the fuck is going on? Oh, is this the scene window? I'm sorry, it's a scene settings window. Lighting, game, inspector, rendering, lighting settings. My bad. I was thinking scene. So I think I've got fog turned on because I was doing some quick tests. And I obviously don't actually want fog turned on. Boom, got rid of it. That should let us see whether or not this has built-in fog effects. And it does not, which is fine. I can live with that. But I'm still not sure that we even have this material correctly assigned. If we go back over into the terrain, we got this underwater material, and it's definitely using the correct terrain. But you can see how if I add the boost, it doesn't actually change how it looks. So my guess is that this is not actually being correctly set up. What happened? I clicked on go away. Why are you waiting? I basically want to minimize the number of randomized variables happening at once, so I'm disabling Aura. I hope at some point Aura will get disabled, because maybe, you know, it could be that one of these things is screwing up the other. We got some fog elements, but I'm not seeing any fog elements, so my guess is that we're not actually seeing this material working. Let's go ahead and switch it over to something ridiculous. Okay, so we're definitely seeing a difference. I saw caustics pop in for a second. Did you see that? Wait, I disabled it. I must have clicked twice, didn't I? Okay, that's fine. We'll click once. So let's go in and see whether I can get caustics to change. I don't really like the fact that this boost doesn't do anything. It makes me feel like... Wait, I saw it do something. Did you see it do something? Maybe I was hallucinating. So what we can do with the caustics is we can change the tiling, but I don't think it's changing anything. It doesn't seem like it's actually working. Let's go ahead and add in an arbitrary object, just a giant cube or something. Shkabloom. And we'll just go ahead and assign that same material to the cube and see what it has to say for itself. There we are. Underwater terrain on the cube. Alright, so where's the cube? There it is. So basically, as we go over to the cube to take a look at the cube, you can see how it's fundamentally quite different than what we're looking at here. It's got caustics. Oh, actually, that looks really quite good. So there's something wrong with the terrain. It's not properly firing. I thought I fixed that problem, but it's not properly firing the material. It's doing a default material instead, or some kind of version of the material that's not properly setting up in the options here. I don't know how else to change this though. Obviously, I have to use the terrain, but it doesn't seem like it's actually firing up. Now, the reason that it's a different color is simply because the terrain texture that I'm using is this brown sand color. If we wanted to, we could remove that texture, in which case we would get this kind of flat white garbage. I say it's flat white, although it's blue. That's because it's blue because the light is blue. The lighting that I'm using is very, very blue at the moment. So this is actually just a white texture. If we bring the light back up to a more white shade, like so, it's still quite blue. So maybe the material is working to some extent. Interesting. Why aren't we getting caustics on it? Why I want this. I want this. This is the same material. Why is it not working when it's on the terrain? That's really strange. Let me go ahead and refer to the PDF one more time here. How to use the terrain shaders. Create a new material and assign it the underwater terrain shader. Select the terrain asset in hierarchy. Open the terrain settings. I did that. Can't use materials with shaders which need tangent geometry on terrain. So it's actually erroring out. But that doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would they sell this as a terrain shader and give you explicit instructions on how to put it on the terrain if it doesn't work? What if I try the terrain fast? Is that going to change anything? Let's try and find out here. Okay, that did. Okay, so for some reason the terrain shader itself is incompatible with the terrain, but the fast shader works fine because it is doesn't require any tangents. And I'm very familiar with the tangent space problems that you get because, we spent roughly a month trying to work out tangent space problems in Hair. So I can understand it being a problem here. What I can't understand is why they seem to think that the default terrain shader will work. Also in scene view, it's just awful. It's an awful mess in scene view. That's fine though. So we can give it a little bit of a boost, and you can see how we can't see the change in scene view. I think that's what I was looking at before, because the boost is actually entirely in the game camera only. Interesting. Kind of just feeling my way through here. Let's look at it for fog. If we take a look, you can see how it turns it to a blue shade. Now what we've got is an ambient occlusion I turned way up. Let's go ahead and get rid of that ambient occlusion for a little while. Boop. Because now this has ambient occlusion built right in, and you can see how the fog takes it straight down to a flat color. The reason we had the visible valleys and stuff is because the ambient occlusion shader ignores range, so we were getting ambient occlusion even on materials that had been completely fogged out. This isn't too bad. This feels much more underwatery than what I had before. The actual setup we've got for the caustics and stuff like that, we're going to have to work on that. We're going to have to polish it up. But the basic idea here is pretty solid. Let's go ahead and change the caustics a little bit more here. If I bring the tiling down to a low number, can I change how large they are? To be honest, it looks like the caustics are ignoring this tiling entirely. I don't think this tiling actually... It looks like they're using the custom tiling. Yeah, okay. So for some reason they decided to use custom tiling instead of their own personal tiling. That's not too bad, I guess. Bring the speed down a little bit because it's a little bit too frenetic. So I've got some fog. I think that if I want the caustics to appear correctly, I will need to create different versions of the caustics that are different for the various depths of the ocean you can be at. I don't see an option to... Yeah, I don't see an option to remove the caustics or to affect them by... there's no option to reduce the amount of caustics being applied. So I would need to have another caustics texture, which is much fainter. So that's not too shabby. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other values we can put in here. So that's the water shader for the ground. I could put in a water shader for the body base. Right now we're using a standard. Let's go ahead and pick a underwater standard or underwater, I think underwater standard, yeah. So what we've got is, we don't have any main texture, don't need it yet. Let's go ahead and select the same caustics. I guess we would have to just repeat the same offsets each time. Should be okay, I guess. Something like that. And the other issue here is that our main texture, there's no color override here for applying a base albedo color. So we would have to actually pick a main texture that's got some darkness to it, because we're not trying to create a character that's bright white. Nearly all wetsuits are pretty dark. So we'll just pick something that is kind of dark. Dummy? That looks like it might be a little complicated. I really just want something... Sure. This is a little bit too dark, but it's the same idea. Let's go ahead and hit play and see what we've got. So here you've got a body that is very, very dark, but I can't see the caustics. Normal map shader without a normal map. Consider using a non-normal map shader for performance. Interesting. So what I'm seeing is a complete lack of caustics. Okay, so it looks like the caustics are quite mild. Much milder than I thought. So that's interesting. I'll go ahead and pick something like... Yeah, so you can see how the caustics are actually quite fine on the body, as long as the body isn't black. So you'll see caustics on, blue or pink or anything like that. But if you're wearing a black wetsuit, you probably won't see caustics on it using this approach. But let's try one more thing here. The actual terrain texture, I deleted it. Let's add a texture back in. And then that's going to be the dirt texture, I believe. What I really want is a pale sandy texture, but we can create that on our own. I actually have some new textures due to some things I downloaded, but I don't think any of these are going to be suitable for the base sand. Yeah, I think we're going to just want to use an actual sand texture. I think it's under S for sand. Yeah, see? Here's a very yellow sand. I think we're going to go with this one. We can pick a normal map if we want, and we should, because otherwise it'll feel a little strange. But the problem is we don't actually have the Ripple normal map. Oh, we got some sea ground. Interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and use one of these sea grounds. These I bought in a different package, which I was planning to explore later, but we might as well explore it now, right? Let's go ahead and just use sea ground 2 for this one. There we go. So now that we've got the ground, oh, I have to hit add, don't I? There we are. Now that we've got the ground set up, okay, so that's actually like a really complicated ground texture. That's including like coral of all sorts. It's not just a sand texture. So let's go ahead and see whether or not we can find a version that's just a sand texture. That looks pretty just sandy to me. It's still got like lots of coral and stuff. We'll leave it for now. We'll come back to it later. It's actually very dark. It's much darker than I thought it would be. My guess is that what I can do is just apply a boost. Let's go ahead and do just that. If we go back up to the materials here and select the underwater terrain and just give it a boost. Yeah, you can see that that is covered in shells. That's absolutely not what I want. So we'll give it one more try here. We've got to find a texture that's not covered in shells. Interesting, I got this and I haven't looked at it at all, but interesting that they don't have just a generic seabed texture. These are all like life textures. Yeah, these are all life textures. So I guess we'll just use that sand texture after all. I just didn't want to use it because I didn't have a normal map for it. I'm using a normal map. I can use whatever normal map I want, but if we're using this winding sand texture and the normal map doesn't line up with it, it's going to feel kind of strange. So we'll use this flattish texture that doesn't have any serious sinuous elements to it, so the normal map can be whatever we want it to be. And you can see how that's just like dirt. I think it's a little bit too big, so we'll go ahead and just bring this tiling way down to like 7. It's not too bad. This is stuff we're gonna be polishing it for the rest of the creation of the game here. The actual textures we're using for the silt, don't worry about those. I just put them in to make sure I could put something in. That's obviously not a final texture. Neither are these hand motions final hand motions. But the basic idea is that we're working on making it a little bit more interesting. So that was the underwater shaders, and that's really what I wanted from them. I don't think I wanted to do anything else with them right away. I don't believe that this has any capabilities to... No, it doesn't. That's fine. It doesn't have any volumetric fog, which is fine. I didn't buy it for the volumetric fog. But I gotta say, I'm not a fan of how it looks here in scene view, where I can't friggin' see it. It's just a flat blue. And the reason it is like that is because the distance indicator for the fog is going from the scene view camera, which means that it immediately fogs out. See, I guess I can live with it for now, but that's something where I'm probably going to have to figure out some way to fix that up. One way to fix it up would be to turn the fog off. Yeah. So you can see that what we've got is a height-based fog and also a depth-based fog. We'll just turn one of those off for now. We don't need this cube, but I think it might be useful for doing some... Well, we'll just delete it. We can always add another cube later. So I got a couple of others here. Digital Dive Labs says, is that IK with the hands? Yeah, I'll be adding IK with some of the other body elements as well in the future, but the hands IK are really easy. I was doing some... I still have to polish it. It's not perfect by any means, but basically once you get close enough to something, the character reaches out and grabs them and then pulls themselves along like that. There's still a lot of things to do in terms of polishing all of this stuff up. I was just putting it in to make sure that I could, that my framework worked out. But basically, a big part of this game is going to be the immersion that comes from interacting with the environment. So we're going to be adding in a lot of IK-based and pseudo-IK-based stuff to make it really feel like you're in the world. Also, before we forget, I want to go into the animator and change the speed of the turning animations because they're really pretty bad right now. So if we go over here into the layers, here is the turning animation. I guess I don't have it set up right. That's fine. So you can see how it's playing at 0.3. We're going to make that 1. That's not a 1. That's a 7. We're going to make this a 1 as well. And then we're going to just check and make sure that these transitions are short. Yeah, 0.25. That's probably... Let's go ahead and bring that down to 0.1. The reason I can bring it down to 0.1 is because the base state is actually the first frame of the turn animations, so there shouldn't be any popping at all, even with a sudden transition, because they have the same start frames. Okay, so it looks like the turning animations are firing a little slow, and the reason for that is this. So we're going to go ahead and put a 0 in front, and then we'll select the other one and put a 0 in front of that too. That should bring them to turn a lot more aggressively. Digital Dive Lab says it looks pretty good already. No, this is just basic stuff. I spent an hour doing that yesterday. It's not up to snuff yet. So I'm not sure why we're getting a hiccup. You see that hiccup? How it turns and then it turns again. Okay, well, let's take a look at the animator. It's probably not that it's actually hiccuping. It's probably that there is some other animation playing at the same time. Select the diver. There we go. Yeah. So you can see how the new state was playing at the same time. So basically what's happening is it's entering the state twice, which is not what I have. It's not what I want. I'm not sure why the new state continues to play even after we've transitioned out of it. I do know. I'm just, I forgot to change some numbers. There we are. That should fix it. No, that's not where I want that. Not even vaguely. So if we move right, you can see how it no longer hiccups. It's just a standard right push. And this is compatible with other animations, so it just automatically blends. So if we're using this really, really tepid forward motion animation and turn, we get both at the same time. And of course the hand IK as well. Should work out fine. Obviously we're going to want to overhaul all of these animations later on. It's just something I did real fast to get it all working. Alright, so that was what I wanted to do there. What else do we have? About the underwater shaders, underwater FX. So I'm not sure I want too many of these underwater effects just yet, because I want to see how well the volumetric fog works. But let's put in some plants before we put in any any volumetric fog, because I have a feeling we're going to want to see how, excuse me, cough, cough. I have a feeling we're going to want to see how well they act together. So you can see how I just bought like a giant stack of random underwater thingamadoodles. You can just drag them straight into the game world like this, and there they are. But the problem with them is that they are, while they are wonderfully LOD'd, they do not use the same shader that we've been using. So if I were to drive away from this guy, oh well, I turned fog off. Give me a second here. Let's turn fog back on. Materials, underwater terrain, intensity of the fog. So you can see that as I look behind me, it just kind of glows. And that's because it's using a different shader. If we actually take a look at the shader it's using one that comes with the device. So we'll go inside the coral and look at one of the sub meshes. Here we are. It's using these big mat low, a big mat, and mat, and so on. And in order for me to make this work, I'm going to have to manually change all of these over to a underwater shader that's using the same setup with all of the same values for the caustics. And that's kind of what I don't want to do. So I guess for now we'll go ahead and just use these as is. But we're going to obviously need to do something about that. And I mean, maybe I'll make a day of it, just going through and changing everything one by one. I might be able to write code to do it. I'm not 100% sure that I'm allowed to do that in terms of how it accesses and saves. So we're going to go ahead and create an empty object here, which we will call plant life. We'll drop our coral in it, and we'll drag some more stuff in. It's kind of in a weird spot here. Let's go ahead and put this at 0, 0 for the ease of you. There we are. If we go back down into underwater here again, we got a lot of different corals that we can choose from. We don't have to choose that one, but they all have the same issue of having an incompatible material. For now, we'll go ahead and just reduce the fog intensity. We'll bring it back later, but we'll just leave it at a happy medium there. So if we take a look down here, you can see what it's going to look like. And as we tag through, you can see this is the same mesh over and over, just different colors. These are more interesting meshes. Let's go ahead and just plop one of them in too. So we've got two different reds here. Yeah, so it looks like we got mostly the same stuff over and over with a couple of size variants. That's not too bad. Got some random seashells here. These things probably are quite small. Yeah. It's nice they have LODs, but I'm not sure I need anything that small today. Some sponges, filter sponges, always nice. These are a fun thing to see, but I think we're going to want to be more careful. I'm just kind of sticking stuff in for the sake of sticking stuff in. Obviously, we're going to want to have a little bit more care taken. Here's some coral. So coral stones are a foundation of when you are trying to build underwater elements. And the reason for that is because they are nice and big, and they make a wonderful spire that can have collisions. So that means that we can add in what is essentially walls and towers and stuff. But they only have about 4 different meshes, so it may be something I have to actually create more versions of. Weeds are obviously quite nice. I don't believe I'll be able to use any of these because they're not going to be pushed out of the way when I walk through them. So because of that, I have no real use for them. I could probably use these grass elements, I guess. I'm going to need to create my own weed, but weeds are the easiest one, so there's no big deal there. Technically speaking, I guess all of these are not too difficult. I'm not too concerned. Okay, so those don't have any colliders. Oh, they do. That's interesting. I think I might have to just bite the bullet and make my own for all of these. I don't think any of these are going to be suitable. No, we're gonna have to do it all ourselves. That's not a huge deal, but it is. Yeah. Oh well. I don't think it was very expensive. It was like $5-10. They're good placeholders at the very least, so I'm not going to get too upset about it. Let's drop all of them into the right position. Plant life. Now let's see what's up with this underwater manager. So the caustics here, I'm not sure what we're managing because it doesn't appear to be changing any of the caustics on the settings in the world here, so I'm not sure. Oh, I see. So they already knew it was an issue. So basically I can add materials to this stack and then change them simultaneously. Let's try it. Here's our underwater terrain. Here's our body base. And then let's go ahead and stick in something that's not at all useful to us. Let's stick in, come on, stop randomly clicking on it. There we are. Let's stick in the material for this. That. Can I select that material here? There it is. No, don't select the shader. Just select the material. There it is. And we'll see what happens when I add a material that's not the right type. We'll see whether or not that fixes anything. So if we take a look at the game here, I believe I added that one. So basically I can change all of these fog values and these caustics, and they should all update. It doesn't appear they are. I don't see any changes. Oh, there it is. It's just inverted from... That's okay. It's interesting. Interesting. Here's the boost. Intensity. So it does do stuff. Yeah, okay. So that's not too bad. So it's a lot less work to unify them than I thought because they were kind enough to make it so that I could manage them. Only problem is that the Coral 1 material here is still set to specular medium. Specular setup, rather. So it looks like what it does is it doesn't actually change the materials to have the right shaders. It just modifies the materials. I wonder whether it modifies them with a material property block or whether it actually modifies the materials. I guess it doesn't matter. Either one works fine. All right. Either way, that's not too bad. It doesn't seem to work in... Oh, it does work. I'm just an idiot. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that was some of the assets that we got, but we still have to tackle the Aura 2 volumetric fog settings. So let's set that up. Ideally, what I can do is I can turn the fog off on the base water material stuff, the base terrain texture stuff, because that way I can use whatever shaders I want for the plants, and they will, even if they're not affected by the fog, if I turn the fog off, who cares? But the problem is that in order for that to work, I'm going to need this to pick up a lot of slack. The fog, that is. I'm going to need the fog to pick up a lot of slack. So let's go ahead and add ourselves some fog stuff. So globally convert objects. Convert. Let's go ahead and save this scene before we do anything too dumb. Convert dimensional light to aura. Convert cameras to aura. Convert spots to aura. Convert point lights to aura. I wonder whether it does this for all of the stuff or whether or not it only does selected things. Let's find out. Adding aura to cameras. Camera, post-process layer, aura. Ah, beautiful. That makes it so easy. This is so much easier than it used to be. You have no idea how annoying it used to be. Let's collect. The sun is now. Well, what happened? The sun is now aura, and the spotlight is now aura. All of these things are now aura-based, which should allow us to get a lot of fog out of them. If we take a look, you can see that we've got a lot of stuff going on here. And the thing we're probably going to have to work with is the scattering bias and the strength, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. So you can see this giant pink laser. The giant pink laser means that it's an aura light now. If we look this little whorl, pretty sure that means it's an aura camera. Yeah, it's a post-process layer. My bad. But the aura camera has also pink. Pink is aura. It's a weird fleshy pink too. It's kind of a strange choice. That's fine. So now what we need to do is actually create some fog. And let's see here. Create a camera. Create a layer volume. Create a global volume. Create a volume with the shape of a box. Create a volume with the shape of whatever we're trying to shape it. Focus on objects after creation. Let's do that. Well, that was weird. Why does it keep selecting things in the background? Volume creation space. Let's create a box. Oh, that's kind of nice. Box volume created. Here's the box volume. So this giant pink box volume is nice, but I don't really know whether or not I have to do more work to make it into a fog. We got a box. We got width, depth, height, noise mask, texture mask, density of 5, light. I don't know. Does this mean I can turn on lights? I think it means I can make it emit light. If I hit play, will this show up in the game camera? Yes, it fucking will. Okay, that is pretty easy. So even though I can't really see it in scene view, it certainly exists here in the camera view. Or in game view. Look at this. This is epic. Oh, yeah. I like this a lot. All right, so let's delete that. Let's create a global volume. Boom. I'm not sure why it's asking me for a size on something that's supposed to be a global volume, but okay. So here's our global volume. And this, it basically should be the same basic thing, but universal. Let's find out. Oh yeah, look at that. So that means that I do not have to use the built-in effects with our underwater caustics. I mean, with our underwater fog. We can bring the fog down to 0 and rely on our volumetric fog. See? And the volumetric fog does not give a shit what material those plants are made from. It's going to end up fogging them out just the same. Yeah, turn. See? Perfect. Obviously, a white fog is not what we want. But we also need to make it feel more underwater. Right now it feels like it's above ground. Let's go ahead and see what we can do to make that work for us. Wait, hold on. Underwater Manager, make this too long. So now the big reason that we're using the underwater thing is just to get the free caustics out of it. We're not using any of the advanced underwater effects. So here we've got our global volume mask. We're allowed to do a lot of different things with it, like scattering. Well, I can't see anything until we're in game view, but let's go ahead and take a look here. If we change the scattering, it just changes the amount of blur, basically, the amount of opacity. If we turn on lights, we can make it glow like a friggin' sun. Oh my god, we're all gonna die. I actually want the opposite of that, but it doesn't look like the opposite of that has any meaning. So never mind. Turn that off. We can change the density. What I'd really like to do is change the color rather than the density. Obviously, we're going to want to change the density as well. But what I really want is color. So hold on. If I change the lighting to be 0 and then make it blue, will that make it a blue? I don't think it is. I think that this is not... It's not changing the color at all. Is the color based entirely on the camera? I mean on the light? Let's find out. If I change this aura light to override the color using a blue and hit play, is that gonna... It doesn't feel blue, does it? I guess it is kind of blue. Man, it doesn't really feel... It feels like it's picking up the sky. It's picking up the fucking sky, isn't it? Oh, I don't want to have to build sky maps. What is out of phase color? Let's go ahead and find out if out of phase color does what I want it to here. Yeah, okay. So I can just use out of phase colors. So that's obviously super blue, just for the sake of having something super blue for kicks. The problem is that I can't get it to be dark. I can change the base color, but I can't make it... Well, I guess that's fine. That's fine. This is all going to work out fine. Only problem is I think I have to do that. All right, so now we've got some basic fog set up, but obviously the fog isn't really how I want it to feel, because this isn't really how the game feels. Also, we've got these flashes coming in from above. See that flash where we get the what do you call those? Lens flares. We got some lens flares hitting. We don't want that. We want to turn off the lens flares. Can I just turn off the cookie? Will that do it? Because the lens flare is technically a cookie. No, that didn't change it. There's something baked into the fog that's causing it to give us lens flares. Let's put in a noise mask. All right, so if we fuss with this noise mask, oh, that might be really good. If we bring this down to like, oh, I can't roll it. 2, 2, and 2. Is that? Yeah, it's a smaller scale. So I bring it up to 10, 10, 10. I get a nice wide scale. Make the speed 0.05. I don't want it to change very fast. So that should give us some rolling fog. However, because it's something that is applied separately, we're going to have to create 2 global volumes, one that has a noise mask and one that does not. So if we... Oh, interesting, the inject data light turned on. Is this from the... Huh. Yeah, that's fine. So... What we really want here is a combination of local fog and rolling fog. But unfortunately, how what happens if I change the scattering? Can I multi-edit? I can multi-edit, good. So this is scattering of -21. If we change the scattering and bring it up, I did multi-edit correctly, but I didn't see any change in the scattering. Oh, it's paused. I don't think that's making any difference at all. I don't see a one lick of difference. So what we'll be doing is we'll be changing this density value a lot. That's going to be something that we do a lot of. I don't see any problem with that. I don't think we're going to have any other problems, but what we can do is we can turn on the ambient lighting to a negative value if we want that dark feeling. See that? So that will create the right feel, because previously what we had was too much brightness. I don't want to reduce the sun. I want to make it so that the water is opaque. And this is not too bad of a setup for that. Obviously, our camera is not yet physically constrained by things like dirt. So we are just kind of moving along using some test setup stuff. Yeah, that's not too bad. So now here comes the real question. When this game has a couple of things that it needs to have, and one of those is currents. Now, I could use a lot of different kinds of currents, but what I'd really like to do is make the currents a volumetric fog layer. I don't know whether or not it's going to get too expensive, because I don't actually know how efficient this Aura stuff is. It should be pretty efficient, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, I can do things like create a layer volume where we can make everything below a certain layer, like this, have a specific set of fog values. I actually don't know. Let's go ahead and turn these two off. Can I just flick them off? Yeah, let's turn those off so we can see what this layer volume feels like. Okay, so if we take a look, this Aura volume, it might be inverted. I'm trying to figure out, because obviously I want the fog to be different in a lot of different ways, so I'm just trying to create a list of all of the ways that that I can make the fog vary. And in this case, it looks like the layer volume actually is inverted, which is cool. That's fun. I just have to remember that it's inverted in order to make it work. So in order for us to change that, we can just make it a scale of 14 instead of a scale of -14. And it should be, yeah, see how that flipped? And now we got fog going down rather than fog going up. That's going to be valuable for us because we don't actually want a global volume. Well, we probably do, but it's more that we want to fill the gullies. So as you descend further, the fog gets heavier. I think that that's what's going on here. It's a little bit hard to tell. Yeah, I think it is. Well, how can I check? If I were to move this up, or move it down. Let's move it down to here and see what we get. Yeah, see how far away those mountains are? I can still see them just fine, but there's fog at the base. So that's correct. Okay, I think I've got this layer fog sorted. I think I've got it figured out. I basically moved it to below the ground specifically for testing purposes. If I move it back up, we should see a situation where we can see the mountains, but their bases will be obscured. Perfect. All right. So that's a pretty straightforward way to do things. We'll go ahead and make this strength 2, and we'll turn back on our noisy. Oh, I turned off the noise mask. We'll delete one of these and turn the noise mask back on. So now we should have 2 sets of fog. Oh, I didn't turn it on. My bad. Let's go ahead and... There we are. So now we have two sets of fog. We've got a permanent set down at the ground, and then we've got eddies passing along. But here's the question for you. If I were going to create a fog specifically for a current, could I make it flow? So what we're going to do is we're going to just wander over there and play with it and see whether or not I can make it feel like a flowing current just by having the noise value push it forward. I believe that this is it right here. I can't see anything now. Let's we gotta fix the camera just a little bit here. So it's actually on the ground, isn't it? Where are we? Oh, are we nowhere near it? Is it right there? I think it's right over there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and grab the player and just shunt them over there. Okay, so this is it. We're in it right now. And you can see that the noise is not flowing in any particular direction. It's just churning. So we're not getting like a wind out of this. If we go down into the Aura box volume here, we can play with it while we look at it. But basically, even if we bring this X scale down to like 0.2, let's give it a boom, 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 boom. So you can see now I've got this vertical shafting going on, which is kind of nice. There. This is along the length, but you can see how it doesn't feel like it's flowing. It's just churning. If we increase the speed, you can really see that it's just churning. It's not flowing. If we turn it over to local space, that's interesting. I'm not sure what's going on. It seems to be flickering. It's certainly not going anywhere. We can add in some texture masks, but that's not going to flow either. I would have to continually move the position, animate it manually. Well, let's go ahead and give it a shot here. We'll add in some blue noise. Oh, it wants it 5 by 12. I don't actually know what's 5 by 12. I don't think I've got anything that's 5 by 12. Hold on. These car interior. This car interior is 5 by 12. So if we take a look at this car interior, and then what we can do is scroll this. I can't see any difference. I'm not even sure if the car interior is working. I don't see any changes at all. Never mind. So basically that means that if I want to use this fog for our setup, what we're going to have to do is, let's turn off this global volume for now. And let's move the Aura box closer. So our person is actually pointed straight at it. So if we just move it like this, and then make it wider. Now we should be able to see it, and that should be the primary fog that we can see. Yeah. So here you can see the setup that we left it in, which is this cool looking vertical wall. Use noise mask. Yeah, it's just roiling. So I can use roiling if I wanted to, but I don't think it's a good idea. Let's try that again. For some reason it didn't take last time. We'll see if it takes this time. So here's our car interior. Okay, so the problem is it's not the right texture. That's not surprising given that I chose it at random. But what I could do is I could use a noise mask with a speed of 0, freeze it in place, right? And then I could literally just move the box. Except it doesn't appear to actually be... Oh, X versus Y, Z. Shoof. Shoof. So the problem is that this is in world space. So what we're going to do is change it over to local space. And we'll make this scale different. In theory, it should be... I don't see any noise here. Let's reduce the thickness here. When I change it over into local space, it doesn't appear that it bothered to actually create a noise mask. I guess there is one, but it's like super, super, super tiny. Okay, so I have to go real tiny. That's fine. I thought I did. Okay. And then if I move this... Yeah, so if we do it like this with the local space, then I can in fact create a moving current. And basically what I'd have to do is create an animation which would move the current chunks in big loops. Obviously that's too strong, way too strong. Maybe that was the problem. I just had the density turned too high. If we turn the density to like 0.6, that's more in line with what I want here. But I'm not 100% sure that's the right answer, because another option is to just use indicator meshes. Indicator meshes would be semi-transparent swirly meshes that would just kind of ribbon their way along the path. Those are cheap. They're easy. They're almost certainly cheaper than volumetric fog. But they also need to be animated. Well, I can leave it for later. For now, we're going to go ahead and just leave this one intact. We're going to call it river segment or flow segment. Turn the global volume back on, global fog back on there. So we now have volumetric fog. It's a wonderful thing. It looks like we have lost the ambient lighting inversion. Let's go ahead and put it back in. Yeah, that's not too bad. Is the ambient lighting inversion down here also gone? It is. Just -2 there too. So if I turn the flow segment back on now, it does not have... Oh. That's interesting. So this shouldn't have the negative ambient flow. It looks like the negative ambient might be universal. That's a little odd. Or maybe I'm just caught... Oh, that was weird. Windows has decided that it really wanted me to see the desktop there. I think it doesn't know what it's talking about. All right, so it looks like... the ambient lighting is... It's not supposed to be universal, but it's certainly interfering with each other. The fog's ambient lighting seems to interfere if it's not working quite right. Here you can see we've got an arm issue, and I thought what that was it was a grab problem, but actually what it is it's an animation layering problem. So we'll fix that later. All right, well, now that I know what that problem is, I can probably try and aim for a fix. The lower segment here is not low enough, so let's pull it up. Not high enough, rather. That's a little bit better. And we're probably going to have to create bound volumes. Let's try that on for size. So let's create a box here. And we'll just we'll just create that box there. So what I was aiming for was to create a layer directly where I'm standing. It doesn't appear to have taken. It might just be that it's too thin. Yeah, it was just too thin. Now it's too thick. That's more in line with what I had. We can turn on the negative ambient lighting here too, and it has no change, no difference at all. Interesting. Anyway, we're starting to get there. Let's go ahead and try some of those underwater effects. So, don't need that at the moment. This is a soft shading. I'm not actually sure how this works. I'll put it in later. Underwater plants, underwater shaders, underwater effects. So as I understand it, there's going to be a couple prefabs, bubbles, there we are. So with these prefabs, we should be able to get some more convincing bubble effects and stuff than the ones I've got right now. So, interesting. I'm just kind of taking a look at what these are. I'm not sure what this is. So this looks like it might be... Yeah, it looks like this might be their attempt to create terrain. That explains why their textures weren't quite right, because they were doing this instead of what I thought they were doing. We don't need those pieces of terrain. I was wondering whether or not it was a particle system, like you know, a splat system for coral, because that would have been interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. Why can't I see it? Oh, it's probably upside down. There. Oh, it's way off center. Interesting. This is a little bit amateurish. I like the idea here. I might do something similar myself, but I think that if I do, I'll do it because it's quite amateurish right now. Here's some fish, a fish particle system. Let's see whether this is that amateurish. I hope not. So if we just grab this and move it over to our general vicinity here, let's see whether or not that feels okay. Fishies, where are the fishies? There's a fish. Did it vanish as I got close? Do these have a lifespan, or are they vanishing because I got close? Oh no, it was just an illusion. That's fine. So obviously that's not going to do it for the long run, but for the short run, that's a nice way to add a little bit of life to it. It looks like they are using billboards, which is not how you should do it, but that's okay. Just for a short-term thing, that's fine. We'll add a little bit of life to it. Let's add some floating particles. These, this is one of the things I wanted. Let's see whether or not that looks decent. Yeah, so you can see how that adds a lot of life, even though it's just random little bits floating in the air here. Yeah, that's actually not bad at all. Congrats! That one turned out great. Grass. Oh, it's just a mesh. Some jellyfish particles, huh? Well, I'll just leave them in for now. Sand. Underwater audio, presumably some bloopy bits. Put on my headset and listen to it. King Fent says, hello, Subnautica. I'm actually, if there is a diving game genre that looks like Subnautica but has 100% the opposite gameplay, that's what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and listen to what this sounds like. Where's the play button? Oh, there it is. Interesting. Let's go ahead and add it. Instead of creating a prefab with it, that doesn't really make any sense. I actually don't know how loud that is. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Oh, so I bet that's actually pretty loud for you guys, isn't it? Let me just take it down a notch. So if we look at this water backdrop, the water backdrop is actually, that's not what we're looking at here, water audio. It's actually just an audio source. But here's the problem. It's set to, oh no, it's not. That's good then. Yeah, so this will actually work fine. We'll just drop that in. We'll put it straight on the camera just so that we'll be able to find it. And we're going to go ahead and turn the volume down because that's really friggin' loud. There we are, something like that. And then I'll bring the audio back up in OBS. Here's the water backdrop, which I think is just like a circle, or a sphere rather, with blue. Yeah, look, that's pretty much useless for us. We don't need that. So now we get to the big deal, bubbles, because the bubbles that we're using right now are terrible. I don't believe we're going to end up using any of the bubble particle effects directly, but what I'm hoping is that the bubble particle shaders that they're using will include some nice textures. Let's put the bubbles in here, here, and here. Oh, that's going to be way too much noise. I'll have to tweak the noises. I can make bloopy noises as well as the next guy, so no biggie. Those actually look really good, don't they? Just as like a shimmering effect. They're not solid. Yeah, that's actually not bad at all. Let's go ahead and see how they do that, and we'll take this underwater audio and turn it way down. We're also going to pitch it down a little. There we are. Well, that's probably pitching it way down too much. That probably sounds pretty bad. There we are. So if we take a look here at the particle system, I just want to see what render they're using. Okay, so they've got a texture sheet animation set up, and that's what's going on. They're actually using a texture sheet, which is good. Texture sheets are obnoxious. Creating them on my own is a real pain in the ass. So what I really want to do is take these bubbles and stick them on the character that I'm using. I think we'll use the medium. So we'll take these medium bubbles here, and we'll drop them onto the camera, or onto the player, in the same place that I have the other bubbles, which are down here somewhere. There they are. Now this particle system has a very simple setup where it pulses. You can see how there's 5, and then it does this descending count. We're going to do that exact same thing for our bubbles medium. Also, we're going to move it so that it's in the right spot. There we go. And so down here in emission, rather than just 7 over time, we're going to go ahead and create that pulse of, I think we're going to go with 10. And then we're going to create a rate between a curve here, and the curve is going to be this, and that's going to be not bad. It needs to be world space. It's actually pretty close to perfect. Let's try it. So obviously one of the big changes I'm going to make to the audio is that we're going to... okay, so those aren't anywhere near big enough. One of the big changes we're going to make to the audio is that we're going to make it so that you can hear yourself breathing in and out, stuff like that. It's not ready for that yet. I'm not quite there yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to just double the scale of these. They're really faint. I wonder if I can punch up their opacity some. Here's a color over lifetime. If we take a look, it does actually go to 100%. We're going to go ahead and take this out because we are actually spawning them in from something. They're not just appearing at random. So we don't have to worry about the fact that they have an opacity right from the start. They got a size over lifetime, which is fine. Here's the renderer. Here's the bubble particles material in question. And it is tinted to have a low opacity. Let's max out the opacity and see how that looks. That's not actually that much better. That's better than what I had before, but I think we want more. I think we want them to be a lot more obvious. I might have to come up with a different... Sorry, I'm thinking faster than my mouth moves. Let's take a look at how the large bubbles look. What is this? Oh, that's a jellyfish. I could breathe out jellyfish. That would be funny. But this is the large bubbles right here. I don't think they're any better. I think they might be literally exactly the same thing. Yeah, they are. Alright, so that was fun. We now have something that is beginning to feel a little bit better in terms of having fog and having some bubble effects that actually look like bubbles and stuff like that. I'm not sure what's up with her hands. Because you can see how that's kind of crossing through. Yep. Okay, so IK is fine there. If we just lift off the ground. Yeah, she's sweeping her hand through her body when she turns, but there's no animation that does that. Let's go over into our meshes here. Yep. So here's the mesh. It's the default Make Human mesh, so yes, it has nipples. We'll be editing it so that it doesn't later on, because it's supposed to be a wetsuit, and I don't know of any wetsuits that have nipples. But that's not important right now. What is important is the animation that is giving us these issues, which is turning right and left. So here is the swim turn. Why is it not? Oh, I don't have the right. Here's the swim turn right and left. Why is it not working? Let's tilt way up. Swim, turn right. There we are. So you can see that when we turn, we do have an arm that comes like this, but it's not the right one. If we take a look at how the animation actually looks, when we turn right, the left arm sweeps through our body. See? And when we turn left, the right arm sweeps through our body. So the question is that because of an IK issue, or is that something else? Let's go ahead and turn on the IK debugging. Here we have it. Mesh renderer. Yeah, that's an IK bugging problem here. So basically, it's doing a projection, and it's colliding with something? What the heck is it colliding with? There's no... So... here's the hand target, current touch. Let's just have it paste out what it's colliding with. So in here, what we've got is best touch, and here's the touch point. So debug.log, hand colliding with, and then hit.transform.name. Let's see what the heck is causing that bug. Nothing. Oh, hand colliding with terrain. I'm not getting any hand collision. Was I mistaken? No, you can see that the hand, the ball on the wrist, that's the hand target. It actually moves the hand target. Now these aren't mounted on the arms, these are mounted on the chest. So it's not that the object is skewing. If the object was skewing, then we would actually have the whole camera skewing with it, because they're all mounted on the same spot. But if we take a look here, this is the arm in question today. And it has come across the belly out to the far side. The hand projector, let's turn on the elbow too. The elbow is still in the right spot. So here's the origin, and then here's the touch point, mode none. Okay, so that's actually all correct. But when I'm turning, these move in a weird way. So it's not the touch point that's causing them to do this. What the heck is this? It's a IK, okay. It's moving the touch point into a weird spot. So if we turn on the shoulders and the elbows, like so, let's see whether or not the elbows spin in a weird way. No, okay, so it's not because the elbows are moving funny. If we take a look at the hand projector itself, let's just take a look at how it is now, which is blue is forward, red is to the right, and green is straight up. And if we turn and pause, we have the same setup, but the hand projector itself is in a different position. No, it's not. What's going on? Am I on the wrong hand projector? I'm on the wrong hand projector. Yeah, the hand projector hasn't moved, but for some reason it's decided that the resting position is over there. I think I know why. That is... okay, it's Aura, you're wonderful, but you need to stop animating shit. So if we take a look, down here we've got this thing right here. where we are trying to say that the hand grab mode is none. And if the hand grab mode is none, then what we do is we take our position, we add our right, and then we add our forward divided by 6. This should be where the resting position is. So debug.log targ. Let's go ahead and see whether or not that actually works. Okay, so what we've got is they're in the same spot. Let's go ahead and turn off one of the hand projectors. I shrunk it. Why is it still animating? Alright, so if we're holding still, you can see how the neutral pose puts it right here, which is where it's supposed to be. When we turn, you can see how it slides across like that. And what we see here is that it isn't moving to some weird place like 0, 0, 0. But the numbers are too small for me to tell. So this should be the right, but it's not offset at all. So why is it? Hold on, let me write something down real quick over here. Dear Aura2 Fog Shader, you're wonderful, but if I've shrunk the control panel, you need to stop swooping and sweeping and bouncing and popping and spinning and dancing and just be shrunk. I might write like an actual review later on, but this, you know what, let's go ahead and try something. Let's go ahead and say that it's just equal to the transform position. This should give us kind of a T-Rex sort of pose. Let's find out if that works. Excuse me. Hit play. Yeah, so that's the T-Rex pose, where the hand is locked right up against where the shoulder base is. The actual shoulder projection is not where the shoulder bone itself is, it's just a little below it. If we turn, it continues to be correct, which implies that one of these other values, come on, select the right thing. There we are. One of these other values is the problem. So let's take a look and see whether or not it's this transform forward. Haha, I managed to beat the animation this time. So that's forward? Oh, minus transform.forward, yeah. Alright, so stop touching the actual ground here. We're doing freeform gymnastics. So that's also fine, which means that it must be that the right is the problem. And I guess that makes sense. Alright, so the problem with the right is that this is how it's defined up here. What we're doing is we're taking a core body position dot product with our transform. So basically, if we're on the right-hand side of the body, we want to be able to go right, and otherwise we want to go left. We're going to go ahead and just hard code that. Public bool is left equals false, and then down here we're going to say if is left. Now come on. If is left, then return negative transform dot right. Otherwise return transform dot right. That way it won't change, because the problem is that our body is coiling at a different rate than our actual position is, because just the body and the hand projector are largely desynced in that particular animation. So the hand projector is being skewed while the core body framework is not. So that's the problem right there. And then this should fix it. The only problem being, of course, that we have to make this the left arm. And we'll turn this on again, because it should work now. Yeah, now it works fine, see? Now, clearly these animations are strictly temporary, but it is starting to come together. The only problem I've got is that we don't have a good fog effect for sedentary fog, for a silt, like these. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some silt right now. So first things first, let's get rid of this, so we don't need that anymore. Now let's create some silt. I'm going to switch you over to Phoenix Write for a second while I open up my art program, because it requires a little bit of fiddling. And just do 512 and by 512, and we'll save it in the right directory, which is definitely in the middle of nowhere here. Where are we supposed to be? We don't actually have an images directory. Well, oh, don't recompile. Now I'm doing something. Images. Textures. Show in Explorer. Close that down. Bring this up. Save it here. We'll call it Silt. All right, let's bring you back now. Boom. There we go. So basically, we just want to have ourselves a little bit of a silty look. We don't have any silt set up right now, but we can use some of these elements to try and get us some nice silt. Basically, what we're going to do is just try and paint in a cloud of crap. We can make it white because we can always apply a shader afterwards, a change afterwards. But in order to make it white, we're going to want to set a backdrop that I can actually see. There we go. And then, oh, that's not white. Yeah, that should do. It's actually too dense. Let's try that again without making the center actually full density. Yeah, like that. Now that's just a single color. I'm not sure whether or not we're going to want multiple colors, but for now it'll do fine. So save that. Sorry, I got something stuck in my teeth. I'm sure you could hear that, me picking my teeth on mic. Got it. How satisfying. All right, so what we're going to do now is switch out the particle system silt that we're using. Dust cloud, here it is. Let's switch this over to our new silt material, which apparently I didn't import as having transparency. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. There it is. Alpha is transparency. There we go. And that should help a little bit, because we're no longer using a round shape. Yeah, so you can see how the clouds are a little bit more cloud-like. We got to do a lot of polishing in terms of making them feel right. They're also much denser, but that should be okay. Let's go ahead and polish it. So these particle systems need to be edited at the same time, but I can't actually... Oh, I can. Cool. Good. So what we're going to do here is we could, if we were smart, we would make this a prefab. I'm not that smart. What we're going to do is we're going to go down here into color over lifetime, and you can see how we've got this color down here. We're actually going to make that white. And the reason we're going to make it white is simply because that way, this one will be gray like this. That way what we can do is change this color here, and that's much easier to edit. So we're also doing a couple of things that aren't quite right. We're going to want to have a random start rotation, so just random between two constants. We're also going to want them to have some natural spin. Trying to remember which of these is spin rotation. There it is. All right, let's take a look and see whether or not that feels okay. We're probably going to have to radically reduce the number of particles being spawned because it's set for a different look right now. But that's okay. It was always going to be in the cards. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. We're going to have to change the color of these based on the color of the ground, I think. So you can see that the way it's working right now, the darker shade comes in afterwards as it starts to fade out, and that's actually exactly not what we want. So we're going to just take this color over lifetime, and this is going to just be gone. The only color over lifetime we want is to fade out. We don't want it to change color. Yeah, that's a lot better already. Of course, we're way too aggressive with it in terms of spawning in thousands of particles. And you can see how the fog doesn't really affect them quite right. We might have to face that later. What I ideally want to do is actually turn them into a fog. When you bring silt up, what you really want is you want that silt to become the silt should become really, really nasty. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring this into a spike like this. So the idea is that as it fades out, it should get really noticeable. Let's find a flat spot here. This is a flat spot. Let's start to coil. Doesn't really get as big as I'd like, but that might be because I'm actually producing so many, I'm producing so many particles that it's actually deleting the old particles rather than letting them fade out. So that's our next step. Let's fix that. The thing spawning the particles is up here. It doesn't actually have any built-in spawn rates. So what we're going to do is we are going to change some of these particle spawn situations. The one that's causing the biggest issue here is this one. Basically, as we move to a new position on the ground, we spawn a crap ton of particles. But I only want that to be true if the new place is far from the old place. So float transition equals vector3.range.distance current touch.touch, comma new touch.touch, ideal touch.touch. And so what we can do here is we can actually set this to be based on that range with certain caps. So we're going to cap that mathf.clamp 0 and 5. That's 5 meters, so it's a noticeable amount, right? And what we'll do is we will then, why is that? Oh, my bad. There we go. What we'll do is we'll then make that this modifier here. So this will be times transition plus 2. Plus 5 times transition. No, plus... Transition is between 0 and 5. So let's say plus 1 plus transition. That should do it. We want 1 puff regardless. We just don't want to have too many. Let's go ahead and see whether or not that helps. It doesn't seem to be a whole lot less particles. I mean, it is definitely less, but it's still so many. That's because the new graphic we're using is so much more... yeah, so much more large. Yeah, so here you can see that the difference between this and the old one is pretty noticeable. But it's still fading out before we get done. I think we're still spawning too many things. First things first, let's get rid of the one where we spawn... Let's close the blinds. I can no longer see the screen. There's another dust emitter here. That's one, and then that's the other. Yeah. Let's go ahead and just comment this one out for now. This one is when we are dragging along the ground and not moving our hand, whereas this one is if we're moving our hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide transition by 5. That'll give us a value between 0 and 1, which is a little bit easier to work with for us. So here we're going to go ahead and multiply this by, say, 2. That's going to radically reduce the amount of bubbles we see. Bubbles, they're not bubbles, amount of silt we see. Now, we're also going to be kicking up silt from our fins and a couple of other places, so it's important to get this value right. That's actually exactly how I want it to feel. I have to change how the IK works, but I haven't actually put in a collider yet for the body, in case you're wondering. So right now you can just phase through things. The hands do have some stuff to help you not do that, but it's broken right now. I broke it last night when I was trying to fix it up. So I think that what we're going to do is we're going to radically increase the size of these puffs. Yeah, I think we can go much bigger than that. Let's go ahead and do exactly that. Grab these particle systems and then edit them at the same time, size over lifetime here. And basically we can take this size over lifetime graph, and you can see the problem is that we go negative, which was dumb. I'm not sure who decided to do that. Some idiot. It's not quite the right color. That's easy enough to change. But you can see how this actually doesn't feel too overwhelming. The previous one was a little bit ridiculous in terms of, like, leaving huge streaks behind. This one's not so bad. But I think we're going to want to increase the lifetime here. Let's bring this lifetime up to 30, and then we'll bring the individual lifetime of these particles into a random between 5 and 15. Oh yeah, that's great. That's pretty much exactly how I want it to look. All right, so there's still a lot of things left for us to do. For example, right now we are our legs are basically just sitting there, and also our physics response to the arm pushes is not right. There's something wrong with it, and that's what we're going to fix right now. So the core problem is that what we're doing is when we get an ideal touch, we actually store hold on. Let me see the left-hand side of the fucking screen. Thank you. When we try and find a hand touch, here it is, touch point. This normal is what we get. The normal plus the transition up forward, and that's not what we want. We just want the raw normal. And the reason for that is, the reason I didn't do it that way is because if you take a look, that means that your hand is going to be flat against the ground, like you're playing patty cake with it, and that's not how humans touch things. So I changed it, right? But what we need is to make that change more algorithmic, and we'll work on that. But what we've got right now is a setup where now that we've changed that normal, the physics of how you touch the world should work a lot better, and we shouldn't have any more problems with the dragging ourselves along by our hands and stuff like that. So now we just have to fix the visuals, basically. Yeah. That's a lot more like what I had in mind. It's not perfect yet, but it's a lot better. What do you guys think? All right, let's go ahead and make that hand orientation work. So basically, our hand orientation is right here. And what we're doing is we have to set the arm solver's current touch rotation to the, I think we're using a look vector. So it would be touch look vector. Here it is. So here it is. We are moving it into position, and then we are changing it so that it's oriented according to the normal of the current touch. There it is right there. We're going to want this normal to actually be different. So that's not a problem. We just modify it. Vector3 modded normal equals current touch.normal. And we're just saying modded normal. And basically what we want to do is if you put your hand up, hold on, my mic just fell. I'm going to make some squeaky noises here. Hopefully that's not too loud. This mic arm is getting a little bit old. If you put your hand up in front of you, what we've got right now is that your hand, it will be perpendicular to the surface. So if you're facing the wall, for example, and you put your hand out, your hand is going to flat slap the wall. Oh, it didn't fix it. Try it one more time here. This might need replacing. So we don't want you to flat slap the wall. But what angle do you want your hand to be at? Well, if you were reaching out to touch the wall, then your hand is going to be facing down towards your feet, which is what we were doing before when we added in minus forward. So minus core body.forward or minus transform.forward, right? That gives us a 45-degree angle, or not necessarily 45 degrees because the wall isn't always perpendicular to you, but it balances the flatness of the wall with pointing towards your feet. The problem is that as you move your hand up above your head, I'm doing this in my room like you can see it, you don't have the same angle as when you push your hand down to your knees. So what we would like to do is we would like it to be relative to the orientation of the forearm rather than the orientation of the body. We would like to balance it. So if it's above you, the problem is we don't have the orientation of the forearm. It's just not a thing. But what we could do is simply reduce the weight. So when we change the weight here, you can see how we set this to 1. We can set it to 0.5 instead. We can set it to 1 when we're actually grabbing something. Let's just scale the in and out for a second here. That's actually not too bad. 0.5 might be a little bit low. Maybe 0.8 would be better. Yeah, that's much more natural. So right now what we've got is, you see how we were sliding our hands along the wall there? That's not what I want to do. Now the reason we're sliding along the wall is because we are detecting a new hand touch that's closer than our old hand touch by a lot. And that's why we're sliding. See? And that has something to do with the speed at which we're moving. So let's take a look. Basically what's happening is we get the ideal touch. Here it is. Best touch. And then we take a look at it versus our current touch. So we take and see if it's like a lot closer, but I think that we can just bring this down to this. Basically, we want to make sure that we're not chasing something that's out of reach anymore, but we have arm length limits anyway, so I don't know if that actually matters. I don't think it does. Let's find out. Now you see we're twitching now. I don't want to twitch. That's better. Oh yeah. That's what I want. See the difference? We're not really sliding along anymore. We might still have some situations where we slide. Yeah, see, like that. I want to get rid of that. I just don't know how yet. Maybe I will try disabling the range check. If not, current touch dot valid. So now we're only going to get the ideal touch if we're out of range of whatever we're trying to touch, or if what we're trying to touch crosses across the front of the body, because I got some checks for that. Oh, I think that was a body crossing check. Yeah, it was. Okay. That might be what's going on. It is. Okay, so what's happening is the touch point is crossing in front of the chest. It's crossing so that your arm is folded in front of your chest. And that's the stuff where the hand will go, hey, that's not going to work out for me. I don't want to look awkward. Ah! Alright, so I think that we're currently in a position where we can just leave it. I'm going to put this back in for now. And what we'll do is we're going to take this and turn this into -0.2. That should make it so they can cross in front of the chest some amount before freaking out. So I have to say, I put in my air conditioner last night. It's been running all day today. It's amazing how much easier it is to stream when your air conditioner's running. I'm sure that you can hear it, but I couldn't stream for more than an hour without my air conditioner. So the reason that she's posed so oddly is due to a glitch in the leg checking, which we'll figure out later on. We have to replace how the leg animations work in the first place. So another option is I'm still not sold on the hands. They look okay at the top, but they look a little bit awkward down at the bottom. You see that? How they like fold aggressively. They also twitch. I'm thinking, what if I look in the direction of the normal, which is up, and then I also look in the direction of our feet, which is down, or this way, you know? That'd give us... I guess I'd look that way. Pose it this way. And as it went down... I don't know. I don't know how to make the hands look more natural. Oh, I do know. What we'll do is we will make it so that it moves this IK solver towards the range of the grab. So what we'll do is we'll put in a current touch dot range, and the range of the grab is going to range from 0 to whatever the max grab range is. So we can divide this by the grab range maximum, like so. And we can cap that, so mathf.clamp01. Come on. There we go. And that'll give us the range that we want, and then we can just say 1 minus. And that means that it will track, it will be exactly locked flat against the wall if it's at your shoulder. But as it moves away from your shoulder, you'll touch it with just your fingertips. That's not entirely true either, because what actually happens is your fingertips sink into the sand. But that's fine. That's fine for now. We'll need a better hand IK solver later. This is an arm IK solver, not a hand IK solver. Oh yeah, that's already better. Wow. So the only problem I've got here is that we are not grabbing ahead until we stop. As we move, we're actually grabbing behind us. And I think the reason for that is because of some slow lerping on the hand grab. So what we're going to do is when we lerp the hand grab's position, we're going to lerp it here. We're going to lerp this based on our horizontal input. Do we grab the horizontal input in this function yet? I don't think we do, so we'll just grab it here. It's actually the vertical input that we want, not the horizontal. There we go. So in theory, what that'll do is it will get us a result that is between taking 1/3 of a second to grab a position and taking 1/6 of a second to grab a position if we're moving fast. This should help us on those transitions where we're moving fast, because the IK solver is falling behind the body too fast for us, and that's something we're going to want to fix. Oh, we still got the same problem. So the core issue is that the actual touch points are being calculated as off to the sides mostly. Let's take a look here. We got 3 positions that we check when we're trying to check for the best position. We've got this position, which is forward, just above our shoulder. We're trying to reach up on our head here. And then what we've got next is this position, which is forward and right. So that would be ahead and then off to the side, which I think is the position that we're actually grabbing. And then here we've got one where we're just checking straight down from the shoulder. Sorry, straight ahead from the shoulder and a little bit down. So that's like, this one will grab, basically if we're about to slam our face into something, this one will grab whatever we're about to slam our face into. This one goes off to the side a little bit and forward a little bit. And this one goes forward a lot. And the question is, which of these is the one that we're actually getting that's doing the weird dog paddle way down at our hips? Let's go ahead and see whether or not we can just take a look and see whether or not it's off to the side when we do that. I think it is. I think it's the one that's off to the side. So this is the one that's directly ahead of us. I don't know whether it's type 1 or type 3. I think it's type 3. Yeah, so that works fine. You can see how that's... Oh, here, you can see this. So it's definitely off to the side. Yeah, so see these are off to the side. We're paddling off to the side. And the question is that... If I change this to 4, is it going to be noticeably further off to the side? Let's find out. I could also just disable it, I suppose. I'm just trying to think about how I want it to actually look, and basically I want you to reach above your head. I don't mind if they're off to the side, but you can't just paddle along out of sight. That's not how arms work. So there's the good one. Oh, there we go. That's definitely off to the side. So for some reason, the one off to the side is screwing up. What we're going to do is we're actually going to add in transform.up divided by 4. Or even divided by 4. And the reason for that is we're going to make it count as further away. And there's a couple of reasons that we're going to do that, but let's try it out. We're going to have to add in some more. We're going to have to redo the animations for the character, which isn't that big of a deal. That's definitely more than what I had in mind there. We definitely have some awkwardness still in here, but it's way better than it used to be. Once we add in some foot IK, I think it'll really work out here. Yeah, now the one that's off to the side is working as I intended. That's great. So this is the one where it doesn't make any damn sense. Where we're just kind of Supermaning our way up the sides. But I know why it's doing that. I can probably fix it later. Yeah, okay. So let's talk about leg animations. So there are a couple of things that we want the legs to do. One is we'd like the legs to kick. There's a lot more body in your kicks than you might think. So we're gonna have to put some bodies into the kicks. When we talk about kicking, there's no such thing as a one-legged kick due to the way that it works underwater. So every kick we've got is also going to be animated with a counter kick, you know, the other side of your body. And the way that works is going to have to be careful because there's a couple different kinds of kicks. And those kinds of kicks are going to vary based on what speed you're trying to go, whether you're trying to change direction, and all of that nonsense. So normally what we would want to do is alternate between right and left kicks. And I think what we'll do is we will have a right kick and a left kick, a set. We'll have 2 right kicks and 2 left kicks, one small, one large. They're going to take the same amount of time, but they're going to, but they're going to have radically different animations. Let's give it a shot. So here is the character animator. We're just doing it right here in Blender. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the default neutral float, create a new, which we will call left kick small, delete these keyframes. There we go. Actually, we don't have to delete that one. So we have a 30 frame long animation here. That's too long. We'll bring it down to 16. The idea here is that what we'll end up having is a, what is it, Shift, Alt, Control? I guess it's just the mouse wheel. There we are. What we're going to do is we're going to end up having it return to a neutral frame. But the thing is that our return to a neutral frame is not going to be a rest frame. We're going to push through it. So basically, we're going to animate it as if it were the kicks that were the primary frames rather than the rest frames. We're going to keep the rest frame in there so that we don't lose track of it. But basically, we're gonna create our most extreme pose, and then we're going to make that the thing that we aim for. Because this is not like kick and then wait and then kick and then wait. It's constant kicking. But this is the small kick, and this is the left kick small. For the sake of left kick, what we're going to assume is that you are powering down your leg, just pushing it down. So when I say left kick, what I mean is left leg down, right leg up. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's our left leg down, and then here's our right leg up. When you push your stuff up here, what we'll do is we will grab these, come on, there we are, rotate them on the x-axis. And then if this leg is coming down, we'll also straighten that out, and then like this. So that's going to be a basic leg position. To make it feel right, what we're going to want to do is frame this in. I guess it's raining out. Like so. And what we'll do is we'll rotate this leg just to give it a little bit of pizzazz. There we are. So that's going to be the leg position. But when we're powering that left leg, we're going to end up pushing the entire upper body into a bow shape. So to do that, we will rotate this on the z-axis. Not sure. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So just a fairly subtle rotate like this. I think that might be too much, actually. But as we power this leg down, we're actually going to be driving a chain straight up the body and creating a nice rotation. So we're going to go ahead and just put in a little bit of that. Now, this is still a small kick, so this might be too much. We'll find out once we actually put it into the game world here. We can also adjust the hips if we want, which is something that I don't normally do, but in this case it might be a good idea. Yeah, so we can just go ahead and bring the hips to handle some of that, like that. So you can see how that drives the leg down, and I tilted the body the wrong way because you got to do a counter. It's a counter. So yeah, like that. So you're pushing it down and your shoulder's coming up. I think. Is that right? I can't remember whether I've got the body balanced backwards or not. Yeah, if I push the leg down. The leg goes down, the shoulder comes up. I think that's right. Well, if any of you happen to know, let me know. So this is going to be our key for this section, and then what we'll do is we'll copy it. Move this into here. Grab this, copy, paste. Yeah, let's try making it so that we use the extremes of the leg as the loop point. Except for that won't work, will it? Okay, well, we got some effort to do here. You can see how it's a single kick, right? And then this is the neutral point. Let's go ahead and... Sorry, I'm just kind of juggling things, trying to figure out the best way to think about it. And haven't really decided yet. So when we are looping through this animation, you can see how it doesn't really have the right push through. It kind of, the kick comes down, but there's no prep and there's no push through. So that's what we're going to add now. All we really need to do is make sure that these fins end up looking right. And that's going to be sweeping in the opposite direction like this. So it's push and then flip. Yeah. And then for the prep, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create a bit of a prep. Like that. If we just poof, poof. I don't think that's going to work. I think it's going to look terrible. But there you go. So now the question is, can we just mirror this? I think we can. Let's go ahead and save this. Left kick small. Save. Go back over into Unity and see whether or not we can set that up as a mirrored set of propellants. All right, so if we take a look, we've got our meshes, diver animations, new animation. Take is the kick small left. And this is technically looped, but it's not a loop that we actually want to complete, so we're not gonna do that. I guess that's all we need. I think that when we go over into the animator, we're going to be allowed to create 2 copies of that and set one of them to be mirrored. That's the idea at any rate. Are you planning to finish anytime soon? Thank you. So here is our animator. The base layer is the thing that handles the kicking. And basically what we've got here is a setup. Where are we? Hello? What's going on? Where the fuck did all the things go? That was weird. So here we've got our swim forward. The swim forward has this blend tree in it, which uses the swim forward animation. But the swim forward animation is actually not what we would like. What we want is to blend between... Can I do that? Add new motion field, but this is a motion, right? Add new blend tree. So what I really want to do is have this swim small here, and then again here, and then one of these can be mirrored, which is called right kick small. And then we'll just transfer between them is the idea. But the problem is I want to play these. Oh, okay, I know what to do. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to create a a blend tree, which we'll call left kick. And you can see that the whole blend tree has the option to be mirrored. So once we've created this blend tree, we'll be able to handle the whole situation, right? So in fact, we can just delete this, make it the swim forward. There's going to be a left kick. We go into the blend tree here, and this swim forward, we'll replace it with the left kick small. Now in the long run, we're going to actually replace it with another blend tree. We'll talk about that later. Or not even, just we're going to have more options there. So we're going to go ahead and paste this in, left kick, and I call this right kick. And mirror it. Make transition. And these are automatic transitions between the two. I'm actually not sure whether we need to phase across like that. That might be the wrong thing to do. It might look awful. Let's find out. Okay. So let's edit the blend trees. These blend trees are from 0 to 2. No wonder it looked awful. They're not actually supposed to be from 0 to 2. They're supposed to be from 0 to 1. There is no 2. It doesn't go that high. That explains a lot. All right, so let's see whether this looks a little bit better. And what we're actually going to do is, rather than the forward being directly applied, we're going to have a delta being applied, sort of. It should make it a little bit more clear. Well, that's definitely more violent. I can't tell whether it's properly mirroring. I don't know whether it is or not. That right leg is not doing the same thing the left leg's doing. It's just kind of twitching. You see how it's just kind of not mirroring properly? At least I don't think it's mirroring properly. It doesn't feel like it's mirroring properly. Let's go ahead and have both of them mirrored and see whether or not just the one leg fires repeatedly. Now, you can see that it's nonsense. That's kind of strange, because it's not mirrored. You'd think that the mirroring would work. Interesting. I mean, all the bones have the same names with the L's and the R's lined up perfectly, so I don't know why the mirroring isn't working. Problem is, I don't know whether or not I can mirror an animation in Blender. Let's take a look. Blender mirror animation. Can an animation be mirrored? For current readers, there is a button in the action editor to flip the pose. Let's try that. Let's create a new copy, which we'll call right kick small. And let's take a look and see whether or not we can find this magic button that allows us to flip it. No, that's changing it. That's not what we want. Mirror. No. I don't want to mirror the animation. I want to mirror the bones. I want to mirror it across the bones, not across time. That's probably what they're talking about, though. Let's say x-axis. If you want to mirror your animation from the left side to the other side, you just need to select the whole left side and then copy the pose with Control C. After that, press Control I and then press Control V. No, that's not it either. I'm actually not sure if that would work. It's certainly worth trying. Let's go ahead and just see whether that works, just to see whether or not it does. First things first, I don't think we actually want that one. Let's delete that keyframe, and then we'll do the same thing over here. I think that keyframe is actually in the way. There we are. So if we grab these and hit Control C, and then we grab these, hit Control V. Okay. So hold on. I can actually do that then. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. So we'll go back over to the right. And here's the right kick. And what we're going to do is we are going to grab the whole thing, and then we are going to copy it, and then we're going to paste it, and then we're going to flip it. And then we're going to go over here, and we're going to copy, and then paste, and then flip. And then we're going to... That's strange. The fact that this works is bizarre. Flip. Copy, paste, flip. All right. Save. Go back over into Unity and import that as well. I'm probably coming up towards the end of the stream here. I don't think anybody's still watching, but if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them, because I've got about maybe 10 minutes left in me, and then we'll be done. But first things first, I have got to get this to load. That takes so long for some reason. Meshes, diver animations. Now we're going to have to do it again because it's going to be the same damn thing. Right kick. Smooth. Let that grind out. All right, that was fun. So now we go over into the animator, and this right kick will obviously become an actual right kick. Hello? I got that wrong. Hold on, try again. Oh, for fuck's sake. There we are. So, that's okay, except for it's on left kick, isn't it? Right kick, yeah, that's fine. So we're going to unmirror these because the mirroring doesn't seem to work. Maybe the mirroring does and I was doing something wrong. We'll find out. Now, it could just be that our animations are crappy, but the right leg is not coming in. You can see how the left leg is coming in. The right leg is not. So if we pull this animator over here, that's... It might simply be because the animations are transitioning across rather than being a fat zero here. We really want them to be chained. Look, just the left leg. The right leg isn't flapping at all. What's going on? This right kick is obviously playing, and it's playing the right kick. If we actually look at the right kick, the right leg should come in. Okay. That was the blend tree. This is the animation. That's the left leg. So the right kick small didn't save properly. Let's take a look here. Here's the right kick small. That's clearly the left leg. I forgot to fucking save it. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I just assumed it was going to save automatically for some reason. Copy, paste, flip, insert, location, rotation, scale. Copy, paste, flip, insert. Copy, paste, flip, insert. That should be better. And grind that for a second there. Let it re-import. You can see just how good I am at this game development stuff. First rule of game development, remember to actually save things. Well, the animation is crappy, but it works. Problem is, we've got that neutral resting state that I wanted to avoid. I want to power through the resting state, but we're not quite managing it. I have some ideas as to how to do it. I just haven't done it yet. Let's see whether or not we can do this using mirroring, because that way I'll have the amount of work I have to do. So if we turn on mirroring, and then we go into the blend tree, and we use the left kick instead of the right kick. The thing is, I don't know whether it thinks that it's mirroring across a skeleton or mirroring across the animation. Okay, it's mirroring, it's ping-ponging the animation. So the mirroring isn't actually mirroring the animation across the skeleton. It's just mirroring the animation as in turning it backwards, which is interesting because you can set the time to negative time. So I'm not sure why you would need both mirroring and, I don't know. Either way, let's go ahead and see if we can make this end up powering through the neutral animation. So the idea here is that it comes back up to here, and it's like this really, really slow pause. So what we really want to do is, just to start, let's go ahead and move this really close, like this. If we weight this, oh, that didn't work. If we weight it like this, then it should push through. That's only one frame. That's a little tight. So 11 and 14. Let's go ahead and go over to the left kick and try that. I don't know whether that's going to work. That's just me changing the timing to see whether or not it will work out. Excuse me. Now what we can do is we can add in a lot more stuff here, more powerful kicks and whatnot, but we want to make sure we understand how the animation works before we do anything like that, because otherwise it's going to be confusing. No, that didn't help at all. Okay. That looks really bad. Okay, so I'm going to have to redo these animations thinking about what the heck we're trying to accomplish. We do have an advantage, and that's that we can blur between animations. It's possible that I can simply use it from the left kick. I can do it with no neutrals, is what I'm trying to get to. The left kick can take us from an extreme right kick to an extreme left kick. Yeah, let's try it. Let's go ahead and try it. So the neutral we've got is not going to be the neutral that we're going to use. We're actually going to be putting that neutral right smack dab in the middle, like this. And then creating some other poses. So when we're going from the right kick to the left kick, what we're going to do is we're going to end with the right kick down, the right leg down. That's the idea. And that means that we're going to start with the left leg down. And we can just use a mirror pose for those stopped positions. We can't use a mirror pose for the motion, but we can use a mirror pose for the stop. So this is at the end of the right leg down, right leg kick. So this is going to be right leg down. That's too aggressive. There we are. And this is going to be left leg up. There we are. And then we can power the legs through. So if the left leg goes down, yeah, you know what? I'm going to leave the body solid as a rock for now. It's just work that I don't need at the moment because I'm not even sure if this will work. And now what we're going to do is we're going to copy it. We're going to go over here. We're going to paste it, flip it, insert it, save it. So this is left leg down, and then this is right leg down. See that? But you can see how it doesn't really flip correctly. It doesn't really feel right. This actually needs to be at 17. Come on, move. There we are. It doesn't really feel right, and a big part of that is simply that the in-betweens are terrible. They're broken. So if we want to fix the in-betweens up, we can do that. We're using a 16-frame animation, which means we have 8 in the middle, which means we got 4. So we're looking at 5s for keyframe purposes. And basically, here at the beginning, what we're doing is we are letting go of the left kick down. So we are bringing this left kick, we're softening it like this. And we're going to go ahead and do this. And we're preparing the right leg. So let's go ahead and insert here. So we're preparing the right leg to kick down. And I think what we're going to want to do is this. Just a real easy little tweak. Let's go ahead and push it. Oh, that's a weird flick. So this neutral pose, we're going to go ahead and it's not actually neutral. We're powering through a downwards push. There we go. So that's... Oh, that didn't work at all. What's going on here? I feel like I screwed something up. Something basic. I did. I'm not really sure what I did, but at some point I completely borked. It's okay. It's okay. It's just really wobbly for some reason. You can see how the things kind of flicker and flip. The right leg is coming up with no power, and that means these are going to be resting. The question is, are those actually being inserted in the right spot? They are. Yeah, okay, so that's... We power through from the left leg down, and then we go the right leg down. Yeah, okay, and that's not too bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete the left kick small. And then what we're going to do is select the right kick small. Copy it and make it the left kick small. Good. And then what we'll do is we'll just copy all these poses. So copy, paste, flip, insert, copy, paste, flip, insert, copy, paste, flip, insert, copy, paste, flip, insert. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and try that. I think that it's gonna look terrible because I think I got confused by the second frame there, the second keyframe. I wasn't paying enough attention and I ended up borking it. All right, well that's that. Let's just see how it looks and then we'll be done, which is fine. I was abandoned by the last watcher, so that is not something that I need to keep pushing for. Apparently, animating legs is considered pretty boring. Oh, you know what? I've been completely borking something, but that's fine. We'll deal with it later. Now, obviously, that kick is pretty crappy, but you can see how it works in terms of actually animating in the correct order. Only problem is we have to come up with a less crappy kick. Yeah, we'll work on it. That got some weird flicking going on. We have to completely redo these kicks. By we, I mean me. I mean, if you want to volunteer to do it, feel free, but, you know, most of us, not so much. So if we take a look at this here. Okay, good. It moved automatically. That was my worry. All right, so thank you for your time, everybody, and I'll see you folks around. And that's going to be that.